Hello folks, can you believe it? We are actually at the end of the contest. I am through all the mixes, I checked all of them out, and now today I went through the mixes I still kept that I thought that sounded pretty good. And from those I managed to chuck it down to actually 5 mixes I thought are very noteworthy. And believe me, that wasn't all too easy. There were a couple of mixes where I wasn't sure, okay, should I keep this one in this list or not? Bottom line, I had to make a lot of decisions based on very small things, like what did this guy do to the lo-fi kick and snare at the beginning, or the guitar scratches that lead into the big chorus towards the end, and small stuff like this. And you may think, well, those are just nitpicks, they don't really matter, but no, as I pointed out a couple of times throughout this whole thing, little things like these show me what kind of mixing decisions you make. They show me how much creativity you can put into a mix without, or that really add to the music without feeling out of place. And when someone didn't do anything to these kinds of tracks, then I thought, okay, perhaps I would rather keep the other one, who sounds just as good, but that one did something to those tracks, something interesting. So, bottom line, I'm rambling on, I know. 5 mixes. These are by Filip Moeglich, Bärenfänger, Tomi Pakarinen, Dr. Acula Meets Metal, and Rama Yudhistira. I put all of their entries, the link to their entries down in the video description so you can check them out. And the one that I deemed worthy to be the winner of this Fortiori mixing contest and who will win all 3 amp simulations by Mercurial, that is the U530, Spark and Reaxis, is Filip Moeglich. Why did I choose him over the others? Well, just listen to his mix. It sounds great. Everything about it is just spot on. And what I notice is, I have to be honest, I think his mix kind of feels and sounds similar to my original mix, but I really tried not to get that in the way of my judgment. I still try to be as unbiased as possible. But really, what I noticed in his mix is it's very powerful. It sounds really energetic and very exciting, but also not the whole way through on the same equal level. There's still some dynamics going on. The verse is a little bit laid back and still stays groovy, while the bigger parts are really hitting hard. The guitar tones have just the right space. They are not harsh, they're not muffled or anything, they just fit perfectly. Also, the style of the tone just fits perfectly to this music. And he did a bunch of very interesting stuff here and there that really adds to the music and really builds up stuff even further to put in more dynamics without distracting from the music or without being completely out of place. Now, sure, there are other mixes that also sounded really good and had some interesting stuff going on, some nice spices sprinkled here and there. But when I compared them to Filip's entry, his just sounded better. With most other mixes that sounded really great, I could still make out one thing where I would say, if that one thing was perhaps just this touch better or different, then I would have more difficulty making the choice. But no, somehow his just hit the spot. Now, I want to give a special shout out to Bärenfänger. I thought his mix was probably the most interesting. The way he processed stuff and added additional vocal layers that are transposed by an octave and special effects he put in, that was really interesting and just really kind of a joy to listen to. But why did I not pick him? Well, I did notice his bass guitar has too much in that honky mid-range going on. It just doesn't fit And also the guitars themselves are a bit too distorted, and everything together, the distorted bass, the distorted guitar, and the very heavy cymbals going on the drums, it washed up the mix as a whole just a touch too much. If that would have been cleared up a little bit more, I'm pretty sure he would have been the winner. You see, I did put quite some thought into it. I really went through the mixes and looked out for some details. Check out Filip's mix and see what you think of it. If you think, yeah, he didn't deserve it, then I don't care. Hey, it's my contest. I think his mix sounded great. Definitely one of the best in the whole contest. So I think he deserves yeah. Now let's go to some common mix mistakes or troubles that I encountered throughout this whole contest. First of all, a lot of times the vocals were too low in volume. I guess it makes sense. I'm pretty sure most of the entries were done by people who are like me, focusing more on guitar while they're writing their songs and mixing their songs. Although, of course, I also have a vocalist now and I need to watch out for that, but I'm pretty sure most people who entered this contest don't work together with a vocalist or with vocals in general. So shifting your focus kind of a little bit away from guitar towards vocals can be a bit tricky. What can help you? Use reference mixes. Pick 1 or 2 songs that you really like and just compare your mix to those songs. Second thing I noticed is oftentimes the guitars were a bit harsh and also too distorted. Now, when you're playing by yourself, naturally you want to dial in a bit more distortion and a bit more top range just to get a bit richer experience from the sound you're playing with. But when you are putting these guitars into a mix, you need to dial back a lot of stuff. Less top range so you don't introduce too much harshness into the mix, and also less distortion so the tone stays defined and clear and to the point. Also, oftentimes the solo was too low in volume. Again, just check out some reference mixes. You want to watch out that the vocals and the solo are kind of the same level of presence in the mix. You want them to stick out and be at the forefront in the same way. Next thing I noticed, oftentimes the bass had a lot of the honky mid-range still going around 400 to 600 Hertz. That kind of popped out too much and was just fogging stuff up in that whole mid-range, so you may want to try a bit more of a scoop. Also, the low end of the bass oftentimes was just too low in volume, and therefore the mix as a whole lacked a bit of richness. So you want to make sure around 100 Hertz, 150 Hertz, in that general range, your bass guitar is strong enough to really add that strong low end to the mix as a whole. At the same time, you want to make sure that it's clean. You don't really want to distort the low end because that will just sound totally muddy and mess stuff up again. And lastly, a couple of times I noticed the kick and the bass were not very well separated frequency wise. So just a very basic starter, boost the kick drum at around 50 Hertz, filter the bass guitar at around 60 Hertz. Okay, there you already have a good frequency separation going on. And then you could go further by sidechain compressing the bass, triggering the compressor with the kick. So every time the kick hits, the bass gets stuck down in volume a little bit. And here again, I would recommend TDR Nova, a free dynamic equalizer. It lets you also use external sidechains, and then you can just let the kick trigger that compressor and set it up that it only compresses around 50 Hertz, the same frequency that you then boosted on the kick drum, and perhaps let it duck down by about 4 dB, and that's already quite enough. You will notice you will get a nice thump in the kick that really punches through and the bass won't stand in its way. At the same time, every time the kick doesn't hit, the bass will stay up in volume and still enrich the mix as a whole. So yeah, something around those lines, you know, just some basic tips. Again, reference tracks will help you. They helped me a lot in the past and they still help me. to make sure I'm not isolating my ears. That is always a little bit problematic. And lastly, some self-promo. This song that you mix is from our new album Revive. The instrumental version is already out. You will find it on my Bandcamp page, which is in the video description below. And the vocal edition we hope to get out this year, but no promises. 4 songs are completely done mixing wise. I'm currently working on the 5th one. 2 songs need retracks on the vocals, just one or the other thing. And that leaves us with 3 songs that still need vocals completely. So hopefully we will get it all done still this year, but again, no promises. Here are some snippets.
Escape, resist, evade, persist. Escape, resist, evade, persist. Welcome, welcome. Anything it takes to survive outlast this prison kingdom. Always to this prioritization of our rules of preservation.
And as you probably noticed, this is the kind of album that you wanna just blast out really loud in your car, opening up the windows, driving really slow, letting everybody know you got some music blasting that's really making you wanna bob your head and put your fist in the air. Yeah. At least that's what I'm going for. Something a bit more livelier instead of gloomy, artistic or anything. Just straightforward, punch to the face, put you in a good mood when you are stuck in a traffic jam. And I hope we achieve it with this one. I think Brian is doing a bang-up job right now. So he is really into this album. You can be sure this is gonna be awesome. Okay, that's it for this video. That's it for this contest. It's done. It's been fun. Now let's go on. I'm such a rhyming monster. Now, next project is I'm going to mix the song myself with the same tracks that you used. And I'll make a video series about that. A little video series, yeah. Okay, unless I forgot anything, I hope not. That's it for this video. That's really it for the contest. It's done, it's over. And I shall see you next time.